So what's fun is when you walk away and then I make the broadcast go live.
Are we live? We are live.
We're live. No, I figured I'd get it pre-rolling a little bit early. I know there seems to be like a little bit of a delay between I think what Facebook sees and what YouTube sees. I mean, our audio,
I'm sure,
and everything's captured by YouTube just fine. But
right. John Thomas, how are you, buddy?
Hola, Senor Thomas.
Senor. That's racist.
So, I think we've been rolling for about 50 seconds right now. So I might as well do the intro, eh?
There we go.
All right, hold on. Let me straighten the glasses out. Get the radio voice going. Hey, what's going on?
Your inner Chris Blonsky.
Yeah, there we go. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to episode number 148 of Mirrorless Minutes. How's it going out there, Tammy? John, good to have you guys in the chat room there tonight. Tonight's episode is just, hey, Shelly, how you doing out there? And we've got Mr. Helmer out there as well, and Steve.
What up,
Man,
Jake?
we're filling up quick. Just a little pre-show. I got a little hot on the mic there. Sorry about that, you guys. A little bit of pre-show. Shout out to Bob Remashevsky for the whiskey that I'm drinking tonight. It's Pendleton Midnight.
Ooh-wee.
And it's got a little bit of fire in it. I'll just say that. Holy cow.
We didn't do ours. We had to do our thing this weekend.
Yeah, so I guess. Oh, hey, my mom is watching. Holy smokes. What is going on?
Hey, I met your mom before. Hi, Jamie's mom. Uh-oh. One-Eye Willie.
Oh, no. We're flaking out there for a minute. All right. So I guess we can we'll spill the beans about what we're going to do here. So we're going to periodically do a side show. It'll still be on the same channel. It's going to be on the weekends, and it's the 3 C's. It's going to be cameras, cocktails, and conversation. So I know we kind of talked about it a little bit in the past, but we're actually going to make that one a reality, folks. And it's going to be an open format. We're going to allow anybody who wants to join in the conversation to swing on in and join the conversation with one stipulation. You have to have a drink in your hand. It doesn't have to be alcohol. We're not going to force you into drinking, but you have to have a glass with a liquid in it. So just keep your eyes and ears peeled for the announcements for when those will happen. They'll be starting really soon. And it's going to be a lot looser. We'll talk about photography, of course, and equipment and stuff like that, but we'll talk about everything. We'll talk about what we're drinking. We'll talk about locations we're planning on going for vacations, computer gear, whatever it is. Hey, how's it going, Nam? Good to see you out there.
I just brought your name up, buddy.
Yeah, Mr. Stay at home with Olympus over there, who's done more traveling this year than I've ever seen.
Right. That dude's never home with Olympus, what he should be called.
Right. Hey, you got to get out there to capture those photos. So good on you for doing that.
That's why Nam's one of my favorite, man.
So I think tonight the show is going to be a little different as far as topic goes. So Jerry's going to have one topic to talk to, and I'm going to have another topic. My topic is going to be recapping a trip that I took a few weeks back with my buddy Mark Miller up into Michigan's Upper Peninsula. I'll talk about why that trip was really important to me and how I feel like what was happening during that trip really influenced, I'd say, the images and the quality of the images that I created then. And Jerry, you're going to talk about what tonight? Dun dun dun. Is that
the Fuji 100V? I just picked it up. What's it been, about 2 weeks?
Yeah, it's been about 2 weeks.
I can't put the thing down, man. Even if I'm not shooting, it's sitting in the passenger seat of my car, dude.
Yeah. So I've talked about going and taking pictures in different places a million times. Well, we don't get to talk about new gear nowhere near as often. I'm just gonna let you kind of lead off the show with talking about that camera, like why you got it, what you think about it. There's some interesting features in that camera that I've never seen before. And I know you'll probably talk about those. So just clue everybody in on what's up with the Fuji.
All right. So basically what it is I'm at a place in my photography where I don't want to have to think about gear. I just want to grab a camera and worry about composition, worry about lighting. You know what I mean? So this camera here has a fixed 35 millimeter 2.0.
Nice.
So I don't need to worry about what lens to bring, or oh man, I wish I would have brought this lens instead of that lens, or I need to bring a bag because I got 4 other lenses that I don't have to worry about none of that. You know what I mean? It's just one lens and that's it. It's a small rangefinder style body. So it's pretty compact. It'll fit. It fits in my coat pocket, no problem.
Nice.
I mean, it's you held this one. What do you think? It's probably about the same size as the Pen F.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Actually, I feel like almost it might be a little bit
narrower,
not as long. Yeah.
Right,
I think it's a little smaller.
But I added the cool little thumb grip to it right here that slides into the hot shoe.
Nice.
And that's just so your thumb rests on there. Makes it easier to grip the camera. And then of course I added the fancy little shutter button knob with the leather pad on it.
Nice.
Kept everything black and chrome. And
sweet.
The only thing I think I'm going to do is I bought this lens hood, and I do got a UV filter on here. So here's the deal. This camera is pretty much weather sealed, with the exception of
which body is that? Steve Kunder's asking. I don't remember.
The X100V.
Okay.
So it's pretty much weather sealed, with the exception of the lens, the front element on the lens, because the lens needs to focus in and out.
Okay.
So there's moving parts there, so water can get in.
Gotcha.
So there's a ring so that you can pop this off, and then there's a ring that goes on here. So you put your filter on. Basically, this is replacing the ring right now.
Okay.
Or you put the ring back on, and now it's pretty much weather sealed.
Sweet.
So you can throw water on it, and you know what I'm saying, and you're good.
That's the only thing that was missing from the Pen F, I think, is the weather sealing, and the fact that I guess the small primes, weren't weather sealed. But
right, and so as you know, me and you went back and forth about this for weeks.
Yeah,
I went from the camera you got to an XT4 to a medium format, then back to this, and then no, I'm not getting this one. I'm getting the XT3, and and I opted with this one because of the size of this lens. It's pretty small.
You know what? I'll tell you this much. So the first camera you talked about was that one.
Yep.
And it's cool. You went back to what your gut instinct told you to get.
Right. Because I sat there and I was like, the whole reason for me even buying this was to keep it simple. And now here I am. I was talking to Brian Manier actually through Instagram, and I'm like, so I'm asking him about lenses, and I'm like, look, there I go. And I mean, I'm already plotting on what lens. I was like, I don't need to do that. That's what I got my Sony for. Yeah. So I was like, I'm gonna keep it simple. I'm gonna keep the attached, the fixed lens, and done. You know what I mean? So it's got the weather seal, and the really cool thing I like is the ability to switch from OVF to EVF.
Yeah, that's insane.
So it basically goes from you can't call it a DSLR style viewfinder.
No, because you're not looking through the lens at all. You're looking strictly hold the camera up so they can see that window.
I don't know if it might.
You can kind of see though. I mean, when you put your eye up to the back of the camera, you're looking literally straight out the front of it instead of out of the lens like a DSLR.
Look right here. Right now I am in OVF mode. No, I'm in EVF right now.
You were for a second in OVF because I could see your face through the opening there.
So when you switch it, it's backwards because I'm fucking. There we go.
You're not even drinking.
I know, right? No, there we go. No, I didn't go. What the hell? Oh, duh. What the hell am I doing wrong here, man? Hey, I just got the camera, man. Leave me alone.
So basically what Jerry's trying to show you is that right now you can't see into that EVF window, right? Or the window. Okay.
So basically what it is you're looking through the glass, and it has an overlay inside. So it shows you what's in frame and what's coming into frame.
Yeah.
And then it has that tiny little annoying ass screen at the bottom, the focusing screen that I got to figure out how to get rid of that. I don't want that on there.
Yeah. So to visualize that, everyone, you're looking through what looks like a typical optical viewfinder. Like you're looking through this little glass window, and overlaid over the window is a frame that shows you what's actually going to be inside your image. And you can see outside of that. But then down in the lower right-hand corner, there's like a little electronic screen. You're seeing basically what
like a mini EVF. Yeah.
Yes, it's like having a television inside of the optical viewfinder. It was distracting as heck for me to look through it for
Right.
one.
Right.
So I can see why you want to figure out if there's a way to turn
I
it
know,
on.
because I keep looking at that thing. I'm like, Jesus Christ,
But
go
the
away.
cool thing is like what Jerry's trying to show you is you could be looking through and seeing like live, no electronic viewfinder, what is coming and what is in frame, and then you just push that little toggle, and then all of a sudden it goes to 100% electronic viewfinder.
You know what? Your eye has to be up to it.
That makes sense.
Yep. Now it's switching, no problem, man. Whatever. All right, so back to the camera. So what else do we want to talk about?
All right,
film simulations.
You have to touch on that for sure.
It comes with about 8 or 9 factory film settings in it. The basic stuff, Provia.
But I think you've got other simulations on there that aren't on the XE3.
Yeah, I think I have classic. Do you got classic negative?
I think that's one I do not.
Classic
have
negative,
classic
and you got classic chrome, right?
Mm-hmm.
I got that one. I got classic negative, and I think it's pro negative or something like that.
Yeah. So I know yours came with a couple of more simulations.
Right.
And what's cool with those is those, like right out of the camera, those are cool looking. They're like super cool looking.
Right. And we're going to show you like I got some photos tonight to share that there's zero editing on these photos. These are right out of camera.
That was kind of the whole point of. So here, literally, Jerry got the camera to do what he did tonight. He's taking pictures with them, shot them via Wi-Fi over to his phone, and then he shot them to me on Messenger to share on the show tonight. Like 100%, no computer involved with anything, no editing. It's just right off the camera JPEGs.
Yep. And that's one of the reasons why I went this route. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Keep it simple. Like, and we talked about an iPad. If I want to do some editing, I mean,
right.
If I want to travel and edit on the go, I mean, with an iPad and this camera, man, it's simple,
super portable, like tiny, complete kit, basically.
Yep.
Yeah, it's funny too because I remember you talking about, looking at that camera, and then I tried to persuade you to get this,
right? Because
it's about the same size as what you've got, but you know yourself better than I know you. You said if I get that, then I'm going to want to take the lens off that and start adding other lenses to it.
Yep.
And I've promised myself that is the only lens that I get for that camera, and I swear I'm sticking to it. I might throw a vintage lens on it every once in a while just to see, what the look is or whatever, but you know your addictions
right.
better than I do. So
I don't want to buy any more glass, man.
Yeah. So Mike in the audience here, Mike Hedge, he shared a few recipes with me that he's been working on as well. So he's another X100V user as well. And it's super cool to watch. So I'm watching Mike and I'm watching Jerry, just the different images that you guys are creating. Mike's working on some killer black and white film simulations. I really need you two to start talking to each other.
Right, for sure.
Because I think a lot of what Mike is developing, I could see you using, Jerry, like in a lot of the street stuff that you do, like the gritty urban scenes, that you shoot in and around the Muskegon and Grand Rapids areas. I think it'd be pretty fire. So you two need to link up. I'm playing like the dating game, the matchmaking game here tonight.
Sure.
Yeah. So we know why you got it. You wanted portability. You wanted to not have to think about gear, just throw it in the pocket and go.
Right.
And so far, the images I've seen that you shoot with it are great. So you already kind of got it.
I mean, I haven't shot it much. I've been working a lot, man. I mean, as you saw, I've rushed. I barely made it here tonight.
Yeah. So far, like, what have you run into that you're like, I don't like this, and maybe don't like it because you haven't figured out, a way around it or what have you? Have you run into any obstacles with this camera?
I need to figure out how to customize my buttons a little better.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of that, then, menu system obviously is different. I know when I picked up a Fuji, the way they name things is different in a lot of cases as well. You're finding that the menu is good, bad, just different, or
I don't know if I've ever had a good menu. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like I've owned a lot of cameras, man.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I like one better than the other. You just got to get used to them. That's the way I look at it. You know what I mean?
That's how I feel.
It's like anything. I mean,
yeah,
it's like the startup menu on Call of Duty. Every time they make a new one, you got to figure that shit out.
Right. Yeah, I kind of feel like at some point I would like for camera manufacturers to start adopting the same user interface that you have on a cell phone. I don't care whether it's, the iPhone or an Android phone. They're all, icon based, and you can kind of nest things into groups and hide things you don't want to use and stuff like that.
Right. But, I mean, other than that, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't got any complaints really.
Well, that's encouraging. That's really encouraging because you have had an experience with a lot of different cameras.
Right. I don't know, dude. I got to shoot it more. You know what I mean? I need to get out and really.
Yeah.
I mean, I done a couple portrait shoots with, and I think I took it out once or twice, once at night and once during the day to get a few street shots. But
right. And unfortunately, you picked it up at the time of year that here in Michigan, it gets kind of nasty.
I like it though, man. I like it. I like nasty.
Talking about the weather, Jerry. Talking about the weather. Okay. Although I'll admit I am kind of hoping that this winter is what they're saying it might be because of La Nina. And I want to get back out on the pier in the winter and get some of those shots again. That's fun. It's like an adventure.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Getting out there, I mean, you put your ice spikes on and you do a little prayer before you go out because you don't know.
Right. You might go through it.
Right, exactly.
I go to Betsy again this year, man.
Yeah, I haven't done that in the winter.
You haven't been there in the winter? Oh my god! Dude,
and that's my favorite lighthouse in Michigan. So,
dude, that place is insane. And so, you need to go with us this year. Actually, Walter called me last week because we go every year. Okay. Me, Walter, Dave Behrens, Alan, Randy Riskin. He actually said, "Let Jamie know if he wants to go with us this year."
Oh, cool.
And
yeah, I know the trees get coated in ice there.
Oh yeah, it's wild, man. Yeah, and the water's still like mouthwash blue, so there's a lot of blue ice, and it's really cool.
That's cool. All right, let me pop this up here on the screen really quick. So Mike says he's more focused on landscape photos, so he added the WCL. It's cool. Yep. Very cool. I could see you actually throwing something like that on there just for crazy perspective.
I'm sure I'll get one.
Nice. Very cool.
I think they have two. They have one that makes it a 28 mil, and I think they got one that makes it closer to a 50, which I don't know if I'd buy that one, but I'd buy the 28 mil.
Yeah, just to give a little bit more width there to the shot.
Yes, sir.
For sure. Well, cool. I'm just going to tell everybody right now that's either listening to this or watching, if you have like questions about the X100V, not necessarily, I mean, Jerry's brand new to it. But I know that he's the kind of person that if you threw questions at him, if it's something that he's encountered or encounters, he'd probably get back to you on that as well. Or if you want sample files to check out or what have you, because I know a lot of the listeners to this show, they're pretty heavily invested in a single system. Most of the listeners probably Olympus, but I know everybody is a little curious, they might want to sleep around a little bit, I guess, at least see what it is like to jump in bed with another camera. And, if there's anything we can do to kind of help you out with that, just to see what it's like, to, I guess, discover if the grass is greener on the other side. I just tell people the grass isn't greener. It's just a different kind of grass.
Right.
What it comes down to.
Yeah, for sure.
Excuse me there. So I guess, because we were so Fuji focused here, talking about that, we should probably just share your images and let you kind of talk about those.
Let's do it.
And then just for everybody watching, I'm doing the screen share on my side. So if Bob panics out there, you can relax. You don't have to tell Jerry how to
Watch how easy this is for me today, Bob.
Right. So I'm just going to go through them, and then I'm just going to let Jerry kind of tell me when it's time to scroll to the next one. Oh, hold on. Let me turn off that little sidebar there. There we go. I think I
All
did
right.
it.
So this is right outside my house, actually in my street. I just dialed in Cinestill 800T recipe.
Got you.
And I just went outside to snap a shot to see how it looks so I could see if I had to come back and alter it. In which I did. To me, it was too green.
Yeah.
I like my night shots to be more blue, more magenta.
Sure.
So I went back in the house and dialed it, killed that green and moved it over to the blue side a little more and a little more magenta. So
it's definitely got a cinematic feel to it. There's like almost like this matte, finish to it or whatever. It kind of has that vintagey film vibe to it. And when I say film, I don't even mean necessarily, like 35 millimeter camera film. I mean, just
cinema.
Cinema for sure.
So Cinestill, if you know the history about Cinestill, it was
not at all. I don't.
It was basically a cinema film. And they basically created a recipe for it so you could add it in. And I mean, they just switched it over to 35 mil. I think for the longest time, like it took certain chemicals to
process
to process the actual film.
Okay.
And now they duplicated that with the Fujifilm simulations, and now you can dial it in.
Super cool. So Dwayne was asking really quick what camera. It's the Fuji X100V.
Yep.
Is what we're showing. All these images that we're showing right now were shot with that camera that Jerry just picked up recently. Next photo? Or
yeah. No, go ahead. That was just a test shot. So
gotcha.
What we got. All right. So this is what did I shoot this with? This is Provia.
Okay.
The Provia film simulation. This is right out of camera. And I believe I had everything set on auto. So I'm liking that auto feature.
Explain that, because that is so completely different than what I'm used to on an Olympus camera.
So everybody knows the exposure triangle, aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. And basically what Fuji allows you to do, and it's like old film cameras. Every one of those features has a mode, and it basically means automatic.
Okay.
So when you put all three of those on A, the camera does all the adjusting for you.
Okay.
And it tries to expose properly for the scene. And
gotcha.
And it's basically like what would you call that on the other camera?
Is it program mode that kind of does that?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But the cool thing is it lets you pick and decide on. So let's say I want to change just my ISO or ISO, however some people say it. So I can leave my shutter speed and my aperture on auto, and then I can adjust my ISO the way I want it.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's pretty cool because you can pick and choose and stuff like that. But I just, like I said, I wanted it super easy. I don't want no thinking involved, and I just want to take pictures and worry about composition and stuff like that. So I just leave it all. I've been leaving it like that. I think I'm gonna take it off though and mess. I got to learn the camera, man. I'm not gonna learn.
Yeah. Well, you've only had it for a couple of weeks, and really have only shot with it a handful of times. So
right. So I was really surprised with this image. This is a photo of my friend Jessica, and this was shot on all auto as well. And this was shot with the Provia film simulation as well.
So that looks like it works really well for portraits. I know some of the other simulations, maybe not like the best for portraits.
Right. So here's the thing with a lot of them, I guess it's user preference. You know what I mean? It's
sure.
So I snapped a bunch with a lot of the other film simulations, and some of them are just too contrasty for me. Some of them, the shadows are too deep for what I like. So I don't know if I'm going to go in and tweak them. I don't know. Either that or I'll just shoot I like Provia. That's probably my favorite.
Yeah.
So I do like classic negative as well.
Gotcha. Yeah, you wouldn't want to use Velvia for this one. I mean, it'd be so super saturated.
Right.
So when you're shooting this, Oh my gosh, I just totally had a question lined up and completely flaked on it. Oh, okay, yeah. So when you're shooting something like this, if you're shooting portraits, the film simulation is one thing, but like what mode are you shooting in? You don't have it in the all A mode, right? Like,
yeah, on this one I did, yeah.
Oh, you did, and this one.
Yep.
Man, that pretty much okay.
Dude,
so this is a good it's a good thing maybe for somebody who's new at photography to hear, because basically it's Fuji's equivalent of just auto on a regular camera, right?
Yep.
So basically this is a good lesson again for somebody who's new to photography that is constantly being fed the line, well, if you don't shoot in manual, well, you're not professional, you're not ever going to get good.
I did that forever.
Yeah, and Jerry knows what he's doing and still will use a mode like this just for the convenience of it and get great results. So yeah,
if I'm shooting work, I'm shooting manual mode. Everything's manual if I'm doing work, if I'm getting paid for it.
Okay, well, hold on.
For fun.
But would this image not be exposed properly and look good enough to be considered for work?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So the option is there. I mean, you can still get
professional. And I thought about that too. I was like, man, I'm half tempted to take it and I'm gonna have to take it along and use it as a second camera
and see what you can create with it. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah. All right. So this is another picture, Jessica. And
my dream
this was shot with the Portra 400 simulation.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a little too yellow. I'm gonna have to tweak that as well. I think her skin just looks a little too yellow for me.
Yeah.
But hey, that's the way the film sim looks, So I don't know if the copy I dialed. I need to go back and look. I don't know because how they create these recipes for specific sensors.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, they do.
I'm not sure if this one is for my camera or not, or the X-Trans 3 sensor or processor. So I need to go back and look. It just looks a little yellow to me. And it doesn't look super warm, it just looks yellow, like her skin tone's really yellow.
Right. Yeah. So hold on. Are you saying that the recipe for this one is one that you pulled off the internet and it might have been made for a different camera with a different sensor? Got you. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. So
very cool. Yeah. I mean, I think with an image like this, it's just in the Fuji, it's really easy to do. You could just go in and just crank back the yellow just a little bit on that and fix that skin tone. And it's great. Because her shirt still is white.
Right. But her hat doesn't look really pink.
No. And we saw an image, last show or the show before that you had shot with the medium format where she's wearing that same hat and it's very, very pink. So,
yeah. So, but here's the thing too. This is shot in, all auto mode as well.
Yeah.
This has no editing on it.
Mm.
That's pretty good for a nighttime shot, especially with her being backlit like that. Now, granted, there was some light in front of her. You can see the light on her chin and her nose. But this image doesn't have any editing on it. And I'm like, dude, I'm cranking out shots like this, and I'm not.
So, quick question: I know those are fluorescent tubes up above. I mean, I work in the lighting industry, so I know what the light under those is like. What ISO were you at with this? Do you have any idea? I mean, I don't know.
I would have to look at my metadata. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah.
It was probably crazy high.
Yeah. It looks really great. So that's just where I was kind of curious too, is how that APS-C sensor handles high ISO. I know cameras now are getting so good at it.
And these are JPEGs. So remember I told you, dude, Fuji is a king of freaking JPEGs, dude.
Right. And I guess at the end of the day, if they're processing the JPEG, they probably got perfect noise reduction algorithm in the camera. So
I'm shooting images at night even in the shadows, like 6400, dude. There's not a lick of noise in those things.
Nice. No, it was super rad. Okay. I'm going to take a sip and then I guess we can jump into the next subject. So a couple of things that just popped up here. I'll just post those on the screen. Different time for different modes and using them. I 100% agree. And I'm not opposed to using any mode in a camera. And I don't care if it's a hokey built-in scene mode. Sometimes if it just speeds up the process and I can not have to think about it as much. I mean, it doesn't take away from the fun of the moment if you don't have to think too hard about it, So I get that for sure.
I mean, that's the reason I bought this thing, dude. Make it easy.
Wow, that's that's jumping around systems right there, buddy. And yeah, I mean, it was probably a heck of an adventure for sure to experience so many different types of cameras and formats and everything. So, you know, good on you for that.
Yep, it's fun, man.
I'm just curious though. So where did you end up? What system did you land on currently? And if you, whatever one you landed on, is there something that you missed from the other systems? I'd be curious to see that as well. And what else do we got here? Just got the V the last time we were on. Now he wants to go back to the Olympus Pen F, selling the V with the TCL and flash. Yeah, it's not fun if you get into something and find out that it's not your thing. You know what I mean? So again, the premise behind this is just learning other systems so that if I do run into somebody in a teaching, you know, environment, that I at least have the basics down. This for me is not a pen replacement either. There's just something about the pen that it's just magic. Hold on. What Adam have to say? He's in here tonight. Should have used auto out in San Francisco. Oh yeah. It definitely wouldn't have hurt, you know, just to, you know, especially if it's your first time with a camera, just throw that baby in auto mode and let it roll, you know, until you get things figured out for sure. All right. So I said I was going to take a sip and then change gears. So again, thank you, Bob Remashevsky, for the Fifth of Pendleton. It's been really good. All right. So now to the next segment here. So I wanted to talk about a recent trip that I had taken to Michigan's Upper Peninsula. And at its surface, it probably doesn't sound like it's, you know, really a noteworthy thing to talk about, having led a few workshops up there and been up there a few times for family trips and such. But I think this trip was a really big deal for me, really important for me, because I went up with Mark with no students. And this is honestly really one of the first trips I've taken purely for photography where I had no other obligations. I took a big trip out west this year for 10 days, you know, 3,000 miles of driving on the whole thing. But I was with my kids too. So it wasn't like I could just abandon them and just constantly be gone and shooting and stopping every time I saw something. So this trip to the Upper Peninsula was different. I had the opportunity to 100% disconnect from any obligations to other people during the trip and just focus on my photography. And I think that's important to be able to do something like that. Like I said, I've taken trips in the last 4 years, several trips a year all over the country, and never had the opportunity where it was just me. Or, you know, granted, I was with Mark, but, you know, I wasn't with another photographer where I could just disconnect and just do my thing. And it was cool to be, you know, shooting with Mark. We'd get to a location and neither one of us was in a hurry to leave or rush the other person, you know. So I mean, we spent like a ridiculous amount of time in a few spots, you know, that I probably in any other circumstance, it would have just been a set up and grab a couple of photos and go. This was a good opportunity to sit and just really contemplate what it is I'm doing and find those things that mattered in the shot to me and make those shots. So as a bit of advice, I would like to encourage people, even during lockdown, you know, you can still get out in your own state. You don't have to travel, you know, to some far flung regions to make it happen. But, you know, everyone lives in a state that's got some room to roam and find a place you've never been. I mean, I've lived in Michigan my whole life for the most part and have been all over the state. And I still find things to go shoot and areas to go shoot. There's still a whole segment of the lower peninsula of Michigan that I have not even seen before, you know, that are on the agenda for next year. So please do your brain, your heart, your soul, your craft a favor and try to do what I did. Get away, you know, with no obligations to shoot just for you. I think you'll probably find that your work is better for that, you know, and if not your heart and mind for sure. Hey, Mark's in here. Yeah, it was a much needed trip. I think honestly, as much as I appreciated it and loved it and needed it, I think Mark needed it more. Mark hadn't had much time out shooting in like the last 8 or 9 months. He's been like,
yeah, it's good to get out and do that, man. Me and Alan used to do that all the time.
Yeah, it's therapy, man. It's therapy for sure. So I'm just going to run through these. I won't dwell too long on too many images. I'll just do what I usually do. Just kind of talk a little bit about what was going on. So this is Wagner Falls in Munising, Michigan. I've been to Wagner. Jerry was there with us last year teaching. I was there the year before. I was there the year before again with my family. I mean, I've been there so many times. And as you're walking up to, this isn't, by the way, this is not Wagner Falls. Wagner Falls is, 20, 30 feet, and it's much bigger. This is literally like 12 inches tall or something like that. But it's something that you overlook, because if you're teaching or if you're with family or something like that, you want to go to the big thing and you want to shoot the big thing and teach the people how to shoot the big thing. And you walk right past the little thing, or you stop on the boardwalk and just point your camera and just grab a quick shot. This was fun to be able to go down and get down in the water, like right in the middle of this. And I didn't even shoot the big falls at all, and I think Mark and I were there for 45 minutes and I spent 45 minutes here in this little spot, just shooting this. So this one is shot with the Sony A7 III and the Tamron 17-28.
Ooh.
And I'm using this is a Nisi 10 stop and an H&Y graduated, like a medium graduated filter stacked on top of each other. So everything that I share that was using a filter was a combination of H&Y and Nisi. All of the Nisi filters have the H&Y magnetic frames attached to them so that I can, stack them up really quick and easily. So that's just kind of what I did here. I played around. Like I said, I was here for, over a half hour in this one spot, just kind of moving left and right a little bit, raising the camera, lowering the camera, and experimenting with different shutter speeds and things like that. This was not outrageously long, but it was pretty long for what I would consider a long exposure for something like this. I think I was at about 20 seconds for this. I find you have like a diminishing returns here, on how much time you spend on a long exposure. You start going much longer, honestly, than 15, 20 seconds, and you're just wasting time at that point for the most part. So that's just kind of what this one was here. About 20 seconds on the Sony A7 III. So I think this was our first stop actually in the UP. This next stop again was another place that I'd been to half a dozen times. I think this was Miners Beach, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm wrong, Mark, you're more than free in the chat room to correct me, set me straight here. But we'd been here, again, with classes and family trips and whatnot numerous times. But the beauty of someplace like this is that, well, Lake Superior is a rather mean lake, and she's always dumping things on shore that weren't there, a week ago. And lucky enough to find this big driftwood root ball that had washed up on the beach. So again, just taking my time and just playing around, and anything that I shot with the Olympus the entire time in the UP was done in high res mode. I find that I get a couple of benefits of that. Number one, it makes long exposures a lot easier because you're running, the sensor is shifting, so it actually drags out the exposure. And then, I can throw a lesser ND on, so like a 6-stop, and still end up with about as long of an exposure as I would have gotten probably with a 10-stop almost. So that's what this is. This is the EM1X with the 12-100, and I think I had a H&Y 6-stop ND on here, but it is shot in high res mode. So aside from the added benefit of a longer exposure working in high res mode, I personally find you get a lot more dynamic range and, of course, detail in those shots. So that's what this shot was done using and why I used it that way. In hindsight, I kind of wish I would have composed a little bit differently. I don't really care for all the footprints in the beach, but I guess it adds a little element of, a little human element to the scene as well. So this was the next day. Mark and I were only up there for a couple of days. We pretty much drove up and had like one complete day to shoot before heading back. So this was on day 2. We were, I think, en route or just after having photographed a set of waterfalls up there. And I saw this abandoned house off on the side of the road, and pretty much almost grabbed the wheel from Mark and told him, "Turn around, hold on, we need to go back."
You got to, man. You got to.
So we just kind of pulled off and hopped this little gate that was there that said no trespassing. I have no idea why it says no trespassing. What am I going to take from there other than photos? So that's kind of what we did, is we jumped out there, and I shared photos, I think, of this same house on the last show, shot with the Fuji in black and white. But, again, it was ridiculous. I had 3 different cameras on this trip. But this was shot with the Sony A7 III and the Samyang 14 millimeter f2.8. And a lot of these shots, I like to bracket all the time, just in case, and this was one of those cases where I think it was kind of a good idea to bracket, because if not, the trees in the background, you would hardly be able to tell that those were aspens back there. The trunks of them would be so much in shadow that you wouldn't see the white in them as well. So pretty much just a quick bracket, not much work in post, in all honesty. It was just, I used the the built-in camera profile for like a vivid photo in Lightroom, and just merged all 3 of those exposure values together and fired it out. And that's what I ended up with. The next shot, this is the point in the trip where I think I really blew Mark's mind. So Mark is an Olympus user, has been an Olympus user for a long time, and never really took advantage of the high res mode in the Olympus cameras. Just, how it is. There's so many features built into these cameras. Sometimes you just lose track of what all your camera can do, or you don't know that there might be a benefit to it, And so this is straight out of the camera. I swear there is 0 editing to this picture whatsoever. So this is a high res mode shot, and I've shot it using a 3-stop ND filter and a soft graduated. I wish I would have went with like a medium grad, maybe, just to get that sky toned down a little bit. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with it. Again, just stacking those 2 filters and then shooting in high res mode just really stretched this exposure out for quite a while. This was shot early in the morning. We were there just before the sun had really started to come up, so it was still pretty dark. And go ahead.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Did that leaf fall right there?
I swear it didn't. I swear it didn't. I promise it did not. Look, I needed a focal point. I'll tell you what, though, I have a couple of shots that I've shared, where the leaf was in that spot. This, sir, was not one of those moments.
Right. The Jamie trademark.
Yeah. I learned it from Phil Norton. So, so just again, I appreciate that. Yeah. And what's
some color?
I needed that. There was color in the background, but that pop of red just really just kind of stands out. And, again, one of the benefits of the high res, aside from being able to stretch out the exposure and all of the detail that you get, is, again, the more dynamic range that's in the shot, so you can actually see back into the trees, on the other side of the river. You can tell that there's leaves on the ground back there. A standard shot would not have had that much dynamic range out of the Olympus camera. And the next shot, this is at my favorite. So the last shot, anyways, for those curious, this is Bond Falls. Bond Falls is huge. It's a big waterfall. And I took 2 photos of Bond Falls. And again, like Wagner Falls, I spent a lot of time just kind of, this is the other side of Bond Falls after the water has already come over it. And there's a river, a little stream on the left of the frame that you can see the flow coming out of, and on the right, and this little chunk of land that goes out into a point. And I spent a lot of time just over there exploring around and creating all these little scenes in that space. Bond Falls is very photographed, and I honestly wasn't sure if I could create something there that, that I hadn't seen a million times before. So I just kind of turned my attention to where everybody has their back facing normally. The next shot is at a place called Okundikun Falls. And this was a fun stop. So we went to this waterfall after we had hiked this crazy hike down to another waterfall. And, I shared pictures of what that hike down was like. And I'm getting too old to do stuff like that. It was too dangerous. But we did it anyways. And I was pretty tired.
I don't think I've ever been here.
This is cool. It's really cool. So you can see on the right-hand side of the waterfalls, there's another separate little fall that's coming down. I have a cool shot with Mark sitting right in front of that on that rock outcropping. You can actually walk behind those waterfalls. But this is shot with the Sony A7 III and the Tamron 28-75. And this is a 10-stop ND because by this time it was middle of the day. It was getting pretty bright out. It's kind of hard to tell with all the clouds, but a 10-stop filter and a medium graduated ND. And you can tell, the tell for the fact that there was a graduated on there is the pine trees at the top just right of center of the screen. You can see they're a little dark up there, but this was not a very long exposure, believe it or not. I think that this was probably about 10 seconds, but that's all I needed for it. And the color up there was just amazing. Unfortunately for Mark dropped, I think, a 10-stop ND when he was up there in the rocks, and it shattered. And if you know how much Nisi filters cost, he was a little bummed out about that. But I got away with no injuries, no tragedies, no broken gear. And I think that this is my last shot. So this was this was after that last waterfall, and we were getting ready to shoot sunset on the Lake Superior shoreline. And unfortunately, it looked like we were going to have a great sunset with the clouds. It was really dramatic, and just things thickened up quite a bit. And we still had a lot of dramatic sky. We just didn't have any like burn in the sunset. It was very, very cool sunset. And this is shot with the, again, say Sony A7 III, and I believe I had on here the 17-28. Yes. And this is a focus stacked image. So it might be hard to tell in the screen share, but the rock in the bottom left of the scene and the driftwood on the lower right, those are all tack sharp. And then the rock that's furthest out, that one is also in focus as well. So what I did is I had this set up at f8 and focused on the log in front of me, and then focused on the rock that's furthest out, and then focused on the horizon out there. So it's 3 individual long exposures because I had an ND filter on as well. And no post-processing here. This is just how it turned out. And we're going to have Mark on in a couple of weeks. And it was, I think, this image and one other one that I showed him that kind of created the reason we're going to have him on the next show. Right. He was kind of flipped out by what I was getting right off the back of the camera. And that is all I've got. And like I said, just the whole reason I wanted to talk about someplace I've been to half a dozen times is because this time I went with no obligations other than my photography. And
that's the best way to do it, man.
It really is, and I pray that everybody that's watching or listening gets the opportunity just every once in a while to escape and go do that. Have you been to Porcupine Mountain? And have not made it that far west. I think I'm going there with Shelly. I think I told her that we'll go that far. I've never been that far. So cool place. Yeah. I've got a lot of traveling to do. We need to just make this whole COVID thing go away. I'm tired of sitting at home, drinking whiskey and working from home. But I'm a rum man now. A rum man. Yeah. So you guys will hear a lot about that stuff on the other show that we're going to be doing, Cameras, Cocktails, and Conversations. So we'll probably do get your drinks ready, booze reviews, gear reviews, and things of that nature. So, or we'll get drunk and break cameras. Who knows? I don't even need to be drunk to break cameras. I've done enough of that crap over the last few years. It was amazing. I went up there, and again, so we went to oh my gosh, I can't even remember the name of the falls. Agate Falls. The walk down to Agate Falls, I just have to talk about this. I'm not exaggerating when I say it was like this steep going down. It was, if you fell, the only thing that would stop you would be slamming into a tree. You would not be able to stop yourself from tumbling down it. And I'm going down, and, the idiot that I am, I have a big giant backpack full of gear. Mark's just got like his camera on the tripod, probably the smart way to go. I have all my crap in my bag, big tripod, worked my way down it. I'm out of breath. I'm not exactly Mr. Physical Fitness. So I'm out of breath. I'm a little tired, a little winded, get down to the bottom. And I turn around, and here comes this guy and his wife and their dash hound coming down this stuff. And I thought, how in the hell are they coming down this with a wiener dog? And I almost felt like I was going to die coming down it. And I told Mark, I said, look, we're staying down here for like 20 or 30 minutes because I need to just recompose myself to climb back up that. I turn around and those people were halfway up the hill. And as they're going up, there's a family coming down carrying a bucket, bunch of fishing poles, a couple of little kids that are like 7 years old. I'm like, oh my God, you guys, it embarrasses me.
You know what your problem is, man? You got a pack lighter, man.
I do, and you're good at it. I'm not. I'm so afraid that I'm going to miss something because I don't have.
You're not going to miss anything. You capture what you get. You know what I mean?
I went down there. I took 2 photos. I took a photo of a guy fly fishing, which was cool, and just a photo of the waterfalls. I took all that stuff down there. Felt like I was going to die.
What you need to do next time you go on an adventure?
Don't even say it.
Camera, 1 lens.
You're on drugs.
Nope. 1 camera, 1 lens.
I can't. I needed to go into rehab for this.
Oh, shit.
Jerry's out of battery. Hey, good call, Jason Helmer. He did not make it through the whole show. All right. So I'll give Jerry a second to see if he can figure out a solution to this before we sign off. I'd like you guys to see his face before we go. I will clue you in, though, that on the next episode of Mirrorless Minutes, we are going to have on Mark Miller, who accompanied me on this trip. And my assumption is he'll probably have a few images to share from this trip as well as probably some newer images also, because he's been out creating quite a bit lately. And let's see. So let me just go through some of these comments here. Olympus. Oh, wait, hold on. Where am I at? Oh my gosh. Let me take that one down. I think I'm going out of order here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. I can't even pay attention to what I'm clicking on. I'm just clicking randomly and just bringing everybody's stuff up. But yes, thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. And where are we at? There we go. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that very much, sir.
Need to answer some of Adam's questions since he won't come up here so we can answer them to his face.
Oh, Adam asked if we checked out those presets he referenced. I bought them.
That's right. Took hours to install all them shits.
Yeah, there are a lot of presets.
Did you install all of them?
Yeah, my Lightroom is gross right now.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go through and just kind of filter out some of these presets. If you feel like it, Adam, if you want to paste it in the chat, the link to it, if you want, it's up to you. But it's a really cool resource for some Lightroom presets. They're pretty amazing. It's just that there are so many of them. It's hard to, it's hard to just kind of weed out the ones that, you're probably not going to use and get it organized. So I guess we could probably end the show. What do you think?
You got to show us your tattoo.
Oh no. Okay. Oh, how do I even do this? I can't even twist my arm the right way. Everything's backwards. So I got a dad tattoo. Oh, that way. Which way we go? Everything's backwards.
Right, exactly. I think I had a hard time with that damn camera.
So I got a dad tattoo to go with my old school mom tattoo.
There you go.
It helps to have a cousin who's a tattoo artist. She's pretty amazing.
Right.
All right, folks. And with that, I guess we're out of here for 2 weeks. We'll be back in 2. We'll have Mark Miller on the show to talk about some interesting changes that he's going through with his photography as well. As always, thanks you guys for coming. Thanks for supporting the show. If anybody that is watching also listens, or if you do listen to podcasts in general, if you could just take 2 seconds and find us in whatever store you're listening to your podcast in and just give us a couple of star ratings for our podcast, makes it easier for other people to find the show. Just trying to grow the show like everybody else is trying to grow things. We'd really appreciate that. Until then, you guys take care, and thanks for being interactive on the show, and just keep your eyes. I was going to say eyes and ears, You're
cut off.
Whiskey, right? Oh my God, dude. So anyways, keep your eyes and ears open for cameras, cocktails, and conversations. And keep in mind when we do those shows, if you want to come on and chat, just have a glass in your hand. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Peace.